I think the art of this is how do you both increase the ambition while decreasing all the downside risks of these truly complex situations, right? They have risks, they have dependencies, and they have unknown unknowns. And the only way to do that is through an experiment-led approach to exploring this these concepts.
Welcome to Embracing Digital Transformation, where we investigate effective change leveraging people, process, and technology. This is Darren Pulsford, Chief Solution Architect, author, and most importantly, your host. On today's episode, Big Bet in Digital Transformation with special guest author John Rossman. John, welcome to the show.
Darren, thanks for having me on Embracing Digital Transformation. Great to be here.
Hey, thanks for the plug on the show. But if people are listening,
hey,
they're already listening.
I know the game here. So yeah, branding.
I do appreciate it, John. Before we dive into your book and why you wrote all that and everything, let's hear. Every superhero has a backstory. John, you're a superhero in my mind. So what's your backstory, John?
Yeah, well, I wasn't born with superpower skills. That's for sure. But so I'm an engineer by background. I've always been interested in kind of integration and efficiency and user experience and kind of, the economics, how to make a good unit cost driven basis. I was a partner at Arthur Andersen. I then went on, I was an early executive at Amazon. So I played a key role in launching the marketplace business at Amazon in 2002. So that's third party selling at Amazon.com. Today, that's almost 60% of all units shipped and sold. I left Amazon in late 2005. I was then a partner at a really great consulting firm, Alvarez & Marsal, for 12 years. One of my key clients was the Gates Foundation. And it was several years after I left Amazon. And one of my key clients, he was like, John, you do a really nice job of delicately taking the strategies, the mechanisms, the thinking of Amazon and inserting it into our work. And I think you ought to write a book about it. So in 2014, with his mentorship, I wrote a book called The Amazon Way, which is about Amazon's leadership principles. I kind of caught the zeitgeist of Amazon, of the country and the world starting to see Amazon as like, oh, more than just this e-commerce retailer based in Seattle. And then I wrote another book called Think Like Amazon, which is the full playbook of all the Amazon mechanisms. So those two books are kind of a nice companion set. But today what I do is I do some advisory work. I primarily do keynote speaking, but what I love doing is helping teams and leaders be better at creating the future, right? So whether you call that innovation or transformation or fixing an operational problem, honestly, like I am a change agent and I use all the levers of change: strategy, problem solving, communication, incentives, technology, process design. I use all of those levers of change to help come up with creative, innovative, and sticky solutions.
I love it because that's right up my alley. I'm a software engineer. Went and got my MBA when in the 90s, when I found out no one knows how to manage software engineers.
Right.
So I said, well, I better figure out. So I went to MBA school and learned that no one does know how to manage software engineers.
And I'm not going to learn it here.
And I'm not. Yeah, exactly. You learn it through. I don't know if anyone still can, but and then I my first book was called Secrets of the Change Agent that I wrote. Which was a catalog of articles that me and my best friend at the time, Christian Buckley, we wrote together. So I know exactly what you're talking about. This is dear to my heart on, how do you affect change and how do you deliver solutions to problems that are out there? And so you sent me your book. Thank you, by the way. Great read. It wasn't, 500 pages long, first off. So thank you for that. And it was an easy read, but packed full of great ideas. But before we keep touting how great your book is and where to find it, let's delve in a little bit into the problem space in general. right? And to me, the problem is risk. And how do I manage risk, especially in really large corporations? Who, I mean, one of Intel's key, and I work for Intel. One of Intel's key principles that we have is risk taking. That is such a joke. I am sorry. Any big corporation that says, "Oh, risk taking," no, they're totally risk averse. Every
Right.
large corporation is, right? Because there's too much to lose.
Right. Yeah. So the book we're talking about is my new book
Yeah,
called
your new book. Yeah.
Big Bet Leadership: Your Transformation Playbook for Winning in the Hyper Digital Era. And this book is really the culmination of really the past 18 years of helping make companies make transformation and innovation work. And to your point, um, I think that we all know that the failure statistics of transformations and
Yeah,
innovation
they're huge.
programs and
Yeah.
large technology projects, it's always between 80 and 90%. But that's really just on the consideration of kind of on time, on budget. If you include on time, on budget, and delivering the impact that it's supposed to deliver, it's I've seen one study that says it's half of 1% of all large projects deliver on time, on budget, and on ambition, right? And so it is really, really difficult to do. And I think the art of this is, how do you both increase the ambition while decreasing all the downside risks of these truly complex situations, right? They have risks, they have dependencies, and they have unknown unknowns. And the only way to do that is through an experiment-led approach to exploring this these concepts, right? The concept of whatever your strategy or your transformation is.
I'm thinking of Intel's transformation right now. And when I said, hey, it's a joke about risk, our executive staff is taking huge risks right now. And I think the grunts, the individual contributors, want to see change, but for some reason there's this disconnect. So if I have a massive change, how can I do an experiment around a massive change? Because
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's a lot of ways, but I think the best way is to get, and this is kind of what we outline in Big Bet Leadership, which is to fight against the type of ambiguity that surrounds most of these types of initiatives, right? Like, we're going to improve the customer experience, or we're going to improve results, or we're going to, transform our business, or we're going to become more innovative. And that's really the extent at which most of the clarity is set at. And then it's just this horrible journey to nowhere, trying to figure out, what does that actually mean? What big bet legends do. So people like Jeff Bezos that I worked for, John Ledger from T-Mobile, Elon Musk, Satya Nadella from Microsoft, they do not suffer from vague notions of either the problem they are trying to solve or their vision for what the future state is. And what they do well is they pose the future state vision as a hypothesis, right? I think this is the solution to the problem statement, extremely well understood, and your hypothesis for what the future state is. And then if you have those things, you can use that framework throughout the life cycle of the initiative to test it, to communicate it, to prove it, to compare it to other options that you have, because you always have options of what to do. And then that is how you proceed on. And the whole goal is that you actually prove out the biggest aspects of the risk of that future state before you actually commit in a big way, specifically externally, to what that is going to deliver. And that's how major transformations
are
manage
successful.
this risk of achieving both the ambition and the downside risks of not meeting it.
So this sounds like you're testing before you implement.
Oh,
It's like testing. In fact, you took your software engineering hat, didn't you? And you said, we're going to do test driven development on organizational change. That's what you did.
that's right. That's right. And it really is. So there's three habits that big bet legends have. And we've talked about kind of the first one, which is they create clarity. The second is they maintain velocity. And the third is they prioritize risk and value, deferring out as many other things as possible. And so the whole game is defining this big bet vector up front. That's the create clarity, and then flipping the script and accelerating the testing of the concepts before you sink most of your time, costs, and commitments into doing it. And so it really is, to use your software building or approach methodology, like you really are doing test driven development, and you're shipping something every single day. So the key construct that we do that with is, so as I said, I was an early leader at Amazon. The co-author of Big Bet Leadership is Kevin McCaffrey. Kevin was my client at T-Mobile. So I got to be the senior innovation advisor to T-Mobile for 3 years. Kevin ran new business incubation there. We took the first principles of Amazon's working backwards approach, and we built it up from bare metal to a process that was purpose built for what we needed at T-Mobile, and for a company that didn't have the culture and the background of kind of the writing and debating that these memos take. And so we again reverse engineered that for our book Big Bet Leadership, and we describe a set of 4 memos that are needed in order to help a team do this experimentation. And as you said, really from day one, you are doing the experimentation. People think that writing these memos takes long and it's hard work, and it is, but you're actually experimenting from the very beginning. And as you go through this process, you can see how the refinement and how the options take place till when you're done at the end, everybody understands both the problem we are trying to solve and what we think the future is before we make big commitments at 100x level of most of these proposals or most of these visions or strategies get at the beginning. And if you can get there, then all the senior people like, yep, I agree, or I know where you don't agree. And guess what I can do with that? I can bring it into my test log, right? Oh, I appreciate that objection, that concern. That's actually a risk that needs to be tested. And so it really is agile development for enterprise
For
transformation in one
enterprise.
way.
Yeah. And I like the idea of the memo over the PowerPoint presentation.
Well,
Because
we only included one appendix in the book, and that the name of that appendix is called Why Memos, right? And it's a
yeah,
summary of the research that demonstrates why working in memos is such a different way of working. And the great thing is, you don't have to do it like Amazon does this on everything, right?
oh, I know it's a six page.
You don't have to do it on everything. Do it for this strategy. Do it for your transformation. And it takes some skill, but people think the writing is the hard part. The hard part is actually the debate that needs to go. It's the iterative development of the memo and having the trust and the vulnerability and the culture that allows you to have challenging but respectful conversations. But writing it out on paper has this interesting effect of making it much safer and easier for people to actually challenge the concept without it coming across as challenging the individual. When somebody's presenting
Yeah.
a PowerPoint presentation, if you're going to object to it, it comes across as you're personally, it's really easy to come across as a personal attack. When it's written
Right.
down and you're just debating the memo, one of the little tricks we give in the book is called rude Q&A, right? And you may have heard this concept,
Yes,
right?
I have. Yeah.
And it's really the framing of invite in the devil's advocate conversation. And what you'll find is if you set that up, even the authors of the memo take on a devil's advocate position. It's like, well, here's what I would tell you is the weakness of this position, or what the alternative of this position is, right? Well, guess what that's really called? That's called testing. That's called experimentation right there.
Got it. Got it. I really like this approach because I early in my career I grew up in Silicon Valley, right? In my career, so I learned a um, a style of management which was attack the problem, not the person. That's very East Coast. That's very West Coast centric. Um, Part of my career, I moved to the East Coast. I worked for EMC, Bostonian management, which is attack the person and they'll figure out how to fix the problem. And that was a shocker for me
A little
when
cold water, huh?
oh man, and it was brutal. And I was managing a team in the South in Arkansas, which is we don't talk about problems at all.
Right,
You
right,
know,
right.
everything happens one on one and behind closed doors and everything. So I learned that there are different management styles. This is another one that I actually think I really like, and I'm gonna try and start doing this myself with my team.
Good.
Because if you write it down, that means you've put some forethought into what you're going to say instead of just words coming out of your mouth, right?
Here's the real secret on this, which is even if you never share the memos, you write the memos and then you turn them into PowerPoint. Your PowerPoint and your presentation will be dramatically better than if you just write the PowerPoint. Simply writing out. So the four memos that we talk about in Big Bet Leadership,
Yeah.
one is really all about the problem, right? We call it the what sucks memo. And what you're trying to get to is not all the little frictions or challenges that your customer or your user has. It's what's the real thing that they're trying to get done. That's the real what sucks, because part of the key of a major transformation is you got to attack valuable markets and real problems for customers, not little problems. And so by framing it as a what sucks memo, it really gets us like, this has to be an important problem. What you come out of that what sucks memo is a hypothesis for what you think the killer feature or the killer use case is to solve that. And what we have found is that having that apex, that critical understanding of what the key feature is or key use case is, that's the trick to getting all the other things that you want along with it while still being able to focus on a fairly simple solution set that you need to deliver to. The next memo is called the outcome definition memo. We also call that the WTF memo, which stands for what's the future. And it takes that killer feature, that killer use case, and it outlines in a very constrained way 3 to 5 things that must be true, hard things, risky things that must be true in order to deliver that killer feature. Well, that starts to become the essence of your testing backlog right there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the third memo is the outcome financial memo. And what that recognizes is that your business case isn't just a one-time analysis. It actually needs to be featured as part of your critical features. And so designing to a target unit cost or to a target cost model or a target pro forma income and incorporating that into your test backlog, especially for major transformations, is really key and is usually forgotten in these transformations. The fourth memo is the classic one from Amazon. It's called the future press release. So it's kind of the summary of all of these. And what like AWS tells you to do is like, oh, let's just go write a future press release. Well, that can work on an incremental or a straightforward innovation idea. But when you're dealing in a really hard, wicked problem, transformation, you can't just skip there. You can't just skip to the end game. You got to do the work,
Right, you got to no,
to
I
get to
yeah,
to get to that future press release. So that's the methodology, the framework that we have outlined in Big Bet Leadership to help you do that. But again, if you just take one thing from this discussion, it's like, I am going to write out, when I have a problem, I'm going to write out that problem and my hypothesis for what my proposal is. You will be better at doing just that aspect of your job.
you took us back to business school 101. That's what you've done, but you've done it in a very cool way, right? You've done it in a very simple way, and it just when you were describing this, it took me back to sitting in class at night school and business school, and we forget these fundamentals. I think that's what it
It,
comes
re-
down to.
it really, you're absolutely right. Like I get invited in all the time to review or pressure test or do a QA review of a transformation or a big initiative at a company. And, I always ask for, hey, just send me kind of the story of the transformation of the initiative in your documentation, in your PowerPoint. And so I digest that, and then I'll go do 10 to 12 interviews of key stakeholders. And I do them one-on-one. Um, and I'll ask them really two questions. A, what problem are we solving with this project? And two, what's the future? Like, make me a real tangible description of what the future is. I will here's how that ratio will fall down. 1/3 won't even be able to do the homework assignment with me, right? 1/3 will just go, I don't know what problem we're solving. I don't know what the future state is. The other 2/3 won't have just variations of the same answer. They will have radically different answers to that.
Really?
And that was really part of the inspiration for how I attack my work and kind of went into this, which is back to the fundamentals concept, which is it's not simplistic, but it is simple. Tell me the problem we're solving with this initiative, with this strategy, and give me your hypothesis for a clear understanding so that I can taste it, so I can feel it. What's the future look like? One of the fundamental books that really influenced me, and we mention it in Big Bet Leadership, is a book called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. And that book gets at this notion of bad strategy is vague and is projection driven. Good strategy fundamentally attacks a very specific problem in a business or customer opportunity and gets very clear about a principle and then tactics that solve that problem. And so that's problem focused strategy development. And so in Big Bet Leadership, we took that notion and translated it into for these enterprise type transformations that go on. And
I,
and
I
and incorporated Amazon's working backwards approach to do that.
no, I love the approach. So big, huge changes for many organizations today are happening. Lots, right? And we can blame Gen AI for this. And also the economy. There's a lot of pressure on price and cost optimization right now. Let's walk through just a scenario and how
Yep.
you feel Gen AI is going to, because everyone has to deal with it, period. If you stick your head in the sand on this one, it's going to be brutal for you, in the future. I think.
I agree with the premise of that point. Yes, I agree.
Now, so the problem is what? So let's walk through this.
Okay.
I see this thing out there. I can't really put my hands on it, but I know I need to do something. I'm seeing way too many people just throwing money at this thing. No strategy, no. So walk through. What do I do
Yeah, yeah. So
with your?
I think there are a set of incremental moves of no regret situations that you can put Gen AI into, and that's most of what we've seen kind of having some impact, right? And
Right.
so the tasks or the job functions of content marketing, of software development, those and to some degree sales, which is like content marketing in some ways, those tasks and job functions really easily fit the superpowers of what Gen AI
Yeah.
does, right?
Yeah.
And that's super important, but those are not transformational. Those are incremental productivity drivers. And an organization should do that, and they should see that as part of their portfolio and as part of their learning the capacity to deploy this. But the transformational opportunities aren't going to come from that mindset. The transformational opportunities are going to come from, instead of taking a technology and looking forward how to apply it, focus on what's a real problem in our business today? That could be your cost structure. That could be a core capability deficiency. It could be the fact that, our customer satisfaction is neutral to declining, or it could be a specific known opportunity for the company. Do that and work backwards to all of the things that would need to work in order to dramatically change what the future state is. And what you'll find is that while Gen AI can play a big role in delivering that, it actually obviously isn't the only thing that's needed to deliver. And it won't be the hardest part of actually making that future state happen, right? Incentive systems, processes, legal, revenue sharing, channel disruption, those are the things that really are the hard part of making these transformations happen, right? And then what you'll be able to do is rationalize the environment and the investments that are needed to create a place where you can go test these concepts out in order to prove them out before you announce and you make major commitments relative to them. So that, to me, that is a classic working backwards. Work from the customer, work from the solution backwards
into the
versus
technology.
taking a technology and trying to apply it just forward. You'll get incremental things by taking a new technology and working it forwards, but looking at a market or looking at a major problem and then reverse engineering back to what do I need in order to provide a specific hard future state, that's what provides transformation. And those things will always have a different performance profile. Those things will be huge home runs or complete failures, right? And again, that's why we're balancing. A big bet is different than an incremental project. A big bet, you need to have that big ambition, but you need to figure out how to test it as cheaply as possible, because a lot of these things should quote unquote fail. But the failure we're talking about is just like, yep, it wasn't the right idea. It's not a failure of, oh, we didn't deliver what we committed to. All you commit to is doing the experiment. That's, well, we're going to test this idea. Where companies get this wrong, one of the ways they get it wrong in a lot of ways, is they have a concept up front and then they commit to the street, they commit to the board, they commit to financials, they commit to budgets, but they haven't proven the concept out yet. Well, that, GE and Predix is a classic example.
I was going to say, yeah,
of that playbook right there. But then the other major failure is the failure of omission, where
Kodak.
You don't have concepts of major transformation, and so none of these things are ever started, and all you have is a playbook of incrementalism and managing to an EPS number. Well, that's the playbook that most companies are running by today, and I think that's the bigger risk than taking too many swings at major ambitious projects.
Yeah, I'm glad you came up with two great examples: Predix, GE's Predix, and Kodak. Kodak didn't do transformational; they did incremental because they had
Purely
a digital
incremental.
They had a digital camera, but we're a film company.
And if you look at the downfall of most really good companies that become irrelevant, which happens slowly at first and then quickly at the end, right? It is because they didn't invest enough early in creating the business of the future, right? And that there's all these studies of, like, the lifespan of companies in the S&P 500, or kind of reversion to the mean in terms of stock performance relative to your peer set. It is extremely hard to maintain a superior performance profile for a company over any sustainable period of time. And I think the companies that do that are the ones that are both operationally excellent, and they care deeply about customers and getting it right today, and they deploy enough attention, enough resources to truly experiment on building the businesses of tomorrow. And I think Amazon is and this is my perspective, and could definitely be wrong on this, but I think Amazon is the most interesting company of the digital era. And it's because they have proven the ability to do both of those things. They are both a world-class operator, and they keep taking bold, ambitious bites of the apple, oftentimes failing them. But they've proven that they can build new, big, dreamy businesses from that process, and
Right.
they continue to do that.
No, it's awesome. Hey, John, it's been wonderful talking to you because I mean, your superpower is you're a change agent, right? We need a big C on your chest for change agent. Right? So awesome! If people want to buy your book, it's obviously on Amazon, right? I mean, it has to be
Yep.
on Amazon.
We've got the Audible version is delightful. We had a really good actor for it, and we wrote it to be a very good read and listen. And so it's not clunky. It's a nice narrative.
No, it is. I've
story.
read several sections of the book and I've enjoyed it. So it's a good read. So go find it on Amazon. It's look at this. I got the book. Big Bet Leadership. Good job, John. Thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
Darren, thanks for having me, and I look forward to hearing about how you've applied it into your team and into your business.
You've given me a challenge. I'm going to go do it.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to Embracing Digital Transformation today. If you enjoyed our podcast, give it 5 stars on your favorite podcasting site or YouTube channel. You can find out more information about Embracing Digital Transformation at embracingdigital.org. Until next time, go out and embrace the digital revolution.